The power of habits. There's a oft quoted phrase from Aristotle: we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. So the point here, of course, is that we can change, we can improve, and that change, that improvement, comes through adopting good habits, reinforcing those, and reducing or eliminating bad habits. Now, the sad part is that bad habits tend to be easy to gain and really difficult to get rid of. Think of that favorite chocolate brand, and it's really easy to eat more and get hooked on it, but really hard to get rid of the addiction, sort of mini addiction. Conversely, good habits are difficult to gain, but all too easy to lose. So that maybe you got into this routine of rising early, but once you lose it once, it's easy to let it slip away completely. So in other words, to adopt good habits and reduce bad habits, it's often considered to be kind of hard, but it's really important. Nir Eyal, who's a wonderful writer, and he's all about, he wrote a book called Indistractable, and he's known for that. He's all about focusing and creating good habits, and he tells a story about how he was playing a game with his daughter, and she was quite little then, and the game was if you could have a superpower, what superpower would you have? And she started talking excitedly about her superpower, but he got distracted by his phone, and he was reading some message and responding, and by the time he finished, she had gone, and he never found out what her desired superpower was. And then he was with a friend who had a similar age daughter, and this friend told him, my wife and I were playing that same game with our daughter, and she wished that her superpower would be that she could talk to animals. And she said the reason was so that when Mummy and Daddy are busy talking on their phones, she would have somebody to talk to. Now that really hit Nir Eyal right in the heart, as you can imagine, and that made him very determined to change his addiction to being distracted and using his phone all the time. And phones, of course, are a huge distracting element. They're designed to do that, smartphones and smart apps. So one of our bad habits that a lot of us have trouble with is this phone addiction and this lack of attention to the things that are really important, like our children and other people and things we want to focus on. In fact, the problems have become so bad that apps themselves are turning to that. There are now more than 2,500 apps just for meditative practice. And then there are other apps that are designed to help you stop being distracted by apps. Oh, the irony. So dealing with bad habits is a big issue, and trying to reduce them, control them. So just think of a bad habit that you would like to control, you'd like to ideally get rid of completely, or at least reduce down to a reasonable level. If you achieve that, how would your life change? Maybe make a note of that, on whether you've got something to write with or a digital notebook or something. But just think, because the why is so important. Motivation is a big factor. So if you understand how your life would change over time if you actually stopped spending so many hours on your phone or on Facebook or wherever your attention goes, when you don't really want it to go there, you want to do something more meaningful. And it's remarkable what a big change can come over time. That's the other good thing about habits. They're incremental. I've got this wonderful book by James Clear. He's a very nice man. I met him once. He's a very tall man. Atomic Habits. It's really cool. Tiny changes, remarkable results. So that's a big part of his theme. And I've learned a lot from this, and I apply this and teach my students some of these techniques. Even if the small thing, if you spend, 5 minutes a day, well, I'm a meditation teacher, so you start with 5 minutes a day. I know somebody who started with 1 minute a day. She felt she couldn't concentrate, but she thought, okay, I can sit for 1 minute. She started doing that and gradually increased it. So there's incremental little changes, and ended up, making a huge difference to her life. So that's one of James Clear's kind of principles, is this idea of, tiny changes bring big results over time. What about good habits? What's a good habit that you would like to adopt or develop, that if you did that, how it would change you think would change your life a lot? So think about, if you adopted this good new habit, take your pick one. After a month, 3 months, a year, 5 years, how would your life be different? Maybe note that down. So just, can you remind yourself, okay, why am I doing this? What a big impact this could have on my life. There's one more thing I want to tell you about. That is a keystone habit. So a keystone habit is a habit that if you change that, a lot of other things will fall into place. So maybe there are all these things you're saying, I need to do this in the beginning of the day, or early morning I want to do this. If you had one habit, like for example, not picking up your phone or checking your computer before you've had breakfast. So when you start out with your exercise routine, maybe your meditation, or those healthy routines in the beginning of the day before you get distracted by the electronic device. So that's one. It's like a keystone habit. It's a very small one, but if you can crack that, it'll enable this kind of cascade of other good habits. So keystone habits are very important. So you might want to think about what might be a keystone habit for you. The other thing that James Clear talks about a lot, and this is actually borne out by a lot of psychological studies, is that changing habits, it's not all about willpower, because we have a limited supply of willpower. And we run out, and you can't sustain it if you're only depending on willpower. It's very important to shift things, but if you want to sustain it, the easiest way is to change your environment. Try and set up an environment that encourages your good habits, reduces temptations, put the yummy thing that is bad for you in the bottom drawer at the back of the cupboard. I know someone who, to control their TV watching addiction, they actually locked their TV in a cupboard when they stopped using it. So they watch a show, and then when they're not watching it, they actually physically move the TV into the cupboard and lock the cupboard. And they can unlock it any time, but it became so much trouble to unlock the cupboard, take the TV out, reconnect it, turn it on, that they actually didn't watch nearly as much. So they're setting themselves up for success. So adjusting your environment to support your good habits and reduce bad habits can be very powerful. It's much easier than depending on just on willpower. So there's this lovely saying, when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. Okay? So you're a perfectly good flower. You've got perfectly good genes that you could, become the kind of person you dream of becoming. You need to alter the environment so that your inner flower will be able to flourish and blossom, and you'll become the person you dream of being. So in our course, you'll learn about using habits to transform your world. You'll learn how to identify your keystone habits, how to make habit change a lot easier, and why meditation is the keystone habit of most high achievers.